Hare Krishna. Welcome you all to the most exciting series and session of Bhagavad Gita. And we are in the last chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the 18th chapter. So, for now, we have very enthusiastically covered all the 17 chapters till now. And it is said that Bhagavad Gita gets over in the 17th chapter itself. No need to cover more. But Krishna and Arjuna mercifully takes forward this chapter just to summarize what all they have spoken in all the previous 17 chapters, and we are going to get very nice a crunch summarized elaboration of Bhagavad Gita in this chapter. So let us take this conversation forward, and I would like to divide this chapter in many groups, as the chapter says that this is the perfection of renunciation. The chapter is named. We are going to see the perfection in renunciation, how a renounced person can be perfect. So let us divide this chapter into the different sections, where the first section of the chapter speaks from verse number 1 to 12, which says speaks about Karma Yoga, and the second section from verse number 13 to 18, it says about Jnana Yoga, the summary about Jnana Yoga explained in this section. The third section of this chapter is three modes controls everything. That is from verse number 19 to 40, and from verse number 41 to 53, we can purify through Nishkam Karma Yoga, and further verse number 54 to 73, Bhakti Yoga is the highest. That is very nicely explained. And verse 74 to 78, the conclusion given by Sanjaya. The first Sanjaya starts speaking about, telling about the Kurukshetra and the warfield and people, and finally Sanjaya also concludes what he has heard and how he is feeling. So let us begin this chapter. It's the it has 78 verses, the most number of verses in this chapter. It's very exciting, so please be with us. Let us go to the first section, Karma Yoga, a summary. If you have Bhagavad Gita with you, please, I would recommend, please personally open this Bhagavad Gita, and let us go to the first verse of the 18th chapter, which says, Arjuna Uvacha. Arjuna starts speaking and he wants to know something in this verse. And what is that? Arjuna, in this first verse, he asks that, I wish to understand the purpose of renunciation, that is Tyag, and the renounce order of life, sannyas. Most of the people, they are very much confused about these two terms, Tyag and sannyas. People think that Tyag means to give up everything, don't do any activity, and they term as a sannyasi that he doesn't do anything. He sits in one place and he just meditates or doesn't do anything. So Arjuna asks a very relevant question which we all want to know, and in the second verse, 18.2, Krishna explains this. Very nicely Krishna explains, and the verse starts by Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Krishna himself speaks and he says that to give up the results of all activities is called renunciation, Tyaga, and the state which you do Tyaga, that state is called as renounced order of life, sannyas. So Tyaga doesn't mean that you have to give up literally the activity which you are performing, but you have to do your activity, you have to perform your duty, but you don't have to be attached to the results of the activity. You have to just renounce the result of that activity. That is the real Tyaga. So don't be attached to the result, but give up the results of that activity, and a person in that state, he's a sannyasi, he's a real. Sannyasi doesn't mean saffron clothes, having a big beard, performing some tapasya or penances in Himalaya, and he has given up everything. No, that is not a sannyasi. The real sannyasi, Krishna says, yes, of course, that doesn't mean that a person in saffron robes or a Swamiji or a sadhu is not a real sannyasi, but the real sannyasa or tyag is giving up the result of the activity but not the activity itself. Like Arjuna, being a Kshatriya, he was a warrior, he was a fighter, but we can call him as a sannyasi because having Kshatriya skills, he dedicated his activities for Krishna. He dedicated the results of his activities for Krishna. So this is real sannyasa, real tyag, explained very nicely in the first section of this Bhagavad Gita, Karma Yoga. Karma means activity and yoga means to get connected. Yoga means to connect. So how we can connect ourselves with Krishna just by doing some activity. So any activity which you do, just offer the result to the Krishna, and that activity itself becomes a renunciant activity or a tyaga activity. So let us move forward. The clarification is very nicely explained by Arjuna asked very good question and clarification very nicely given. But let us move to the second section where Jnana Yoga is very nicely summarized. That is from verse number 13 to verse number 18. So let us move on to that, and I would request you can come to the verse number 13 directly. So here in this section, the success formula is very nicely explained. We all in our life, we want to be successful, but somehow we don't know where to get success from, or what is the proper place, or what is the proper action we have to do, or what are the instruments which help us. So this shloka, the verse number 13 and 14 very nicely explains how we can get success in our life. But for this, 5 things are very important to get ultimate success in your life. And Krishna speaks in this Panchaitani, 5 things, Mahabaho. Now what are those 5 things? Number 1, the place of action. If you want to do something, first of all, you need to see where I am performing my activity. What is the place of action which I am going to do my activity? The second thing for success is the performer. How is the performer? Is he well prepared? Has he done his homework? Is he ready to perform the activity? And the third thing is the senses. If you are well prepared but your senses they doesn't support you, you cannot do any activity. And the fourth thing is endeavor. You need to put some efforts. You need to have some endeavor to do that activity. If you lack that endeavor, you cannot do that activity and success doesn't come. But above all, these 5 things, the fifth, the most important factor for success is the super soul, Daivim, Lord Himself. If He blesses, then these 5 factors of success can get you success for sure. For example, if you are a batsman in cricket team, maybe a national team or the international team, now if you want to perform very well, first and foremost, you need to see that is the ground ready? Is the pitch properly there, nourished? Is it a fast track or it is a slow track? So first of all, you need to see the place of action. Is it okay to do batting? That is the first. But second thing, the performer himself. If the batsman has not done the proper net practice, he is not ready and he has not practiced very well, then how come the success come? The third thing, the senses. The pitch is very good. He has done net practice very well. He is a good performer also. But that day, your left eye is not able to see. There is a blurriness. Your senses are not able to see properly. They are not with you. How will you perform? How will you see the ball hit a 6? So the senses are also important. And the fourth thing, endeavor. Everything is okay. Place of action is good. You have performed very well. Your senses are with you. But you need to go to pitch that day. You cannot be sitting at home and you say, oh, I'll perform very well. You have to go to stadium. You need to go to the pitch. You need to hit a sixer. But above all, if everything is okay, but the sanction of Daivim, the Lord, the Paramatma, if it is not there, you cannot get the success for that. So the ultimate of above all, the 5 factors, the ultimate is the super soul itself, the Lord Himself. If He blesses, if you don't have the place of action, senses, performer, everything is not proper, but if Lord Krishna Himself blesses, the success is guaranteed. But in the 15th verse of this chapter, to perform something right, we need these 5 factors, but to perform something wrong also, these 5 factors are important. So right or wrong, the success formula to do anything good or bad, these 5 factors are very much important. And in the 16th verse, Krishna speaks, therefore one who thinks himself only doer, not considering the 5 factors, he is not very intelligent person. He is not very intelligent person. He thinks that I am the doer, these are my abilities, I can do by my own strength, and not recognizing the mercy of Lord and not recognizing the abilities which He has given, and thinks that I am the doer and I have done by myself. That person is not very intelligent person. So we need to recognize the mercy of Lord Krishna. So that was the Second section, Gyan Yoga, very nicely explained. But let us move on to the third section of Bhagavad Gita, where from verse number 19 to 40, three modes of material nature, how they control everything is very nicely explained. I would recommend please come on to the verse number 19, where very nicely the action, performer and any other worker, intelligence, determination and happiness, how each and everything is controlled by three modes of material nature. In the previous chapters, we would have got to know what is Sattva Guna, what is Rajo Guna, what is Tamo Guna. These are the three factors, or these are the three modes of material nature which controls everything in this world. It may be knowledge, that is also controlled by the three gunas, actions, worker, intelligence, determination and even happiness. Even happiness is also controlled by the three modes of material nature. Now, how happiness? Let us see where in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, if happiness, which is overpowered by Sattva Guna, where the Sattva Guna is controlling the happiness, it is like poison in the beginning, but it is nectar in the end. Many times the spiritual activities or any good activity which we want to perform, like getting up early in the morning, that's we don't like getting up early so much. That's very painful. We need to go to bed very early. When you get up, you need to feel fresh. But this is a very sattvic activity, first and foremost, to get up early in the morning. That gives a lot of happiness. Just by getting up early, you can do your things planned. What you want in your day, you can plan and do as you want in your life. For example, getting early up in the morning, initially that's not so liking to this body and mind, that's not so happy to perform. It's like poison in the beginning, but if you have a good habit of getting up early in the morning, you organize yourself very well. You can plan your day very well. And at the end, in the night, if you are very much confident you have done what you have decided, you have planned, that is like nectar. You did what you want. So yes, earlier it's like poison, getting up early in the morning, but the result of this sattvic activity is nectar in the end. But same thing, overpowered by Rajoguna, like it's poison in the beginning, but poison in the end also. So if something which is overpowered by Rajoguna, like you get up late, you are not able to organize your day properly, plan your day properly, things are not according to your plan, and your day also ends like that. Poison in the beginning, poison in the end. And same is overpowered by Tamoguna. He doesn't know what to do and what not to do. So even happiness is controlled by Sattva, Raja and Tamoguna. So everything in this world is controlled. So in the verse number 40 of this 18th chapter, where Krishna says, there is no being existing either here or among the demigods. It's not about only the human beings, but even the demigods in the higher planetary systems, they are controlled by these three modes of material nature. But there's a way to come out of that. But the best way is to always be on Sattva Guna, then slowly we can come out of this. So this was about the three modes controlling everything, and let us move on to the very interesting section, the fourth section, how to purify ourselves by doing Nishkama Karma Yoga. That is in the fourth section from verse number 41 to 53. That is very nicely explained. I would request you all, please come on to the verse number 41, where Nishkama Karma Yoga starts. The explanation starts from here. And in this verse, Krishna speaks that Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudra are distinguished by their qualities of work. Now here the discrimination is done on the basis of quality, not on the basis of birth. Like anybody can become a Brahmana if he has very good qualities in him, if he can perform some penances, some austerities, if he can do some good work, if he has the attraction for reading scriptures, if he has the attraction for chanting good shlokas, be clean, neat, austere. So this becoming a Brahmana is not by birth, but by the qualities. Here Krishna personally explains that the differentiation is done based on qualities. And same with the Kshatriya and Vaishya. If you are very you have a fighting spirit, you want to protect someone, like the militants, military people. By naturally, they have this fighting spirit, they want to protect. So they come under Kshatriyas. And Vaishyas, if you have some business qualities, you want to do trade, farming, cow protection. So these are the qualities of Vaishya. So this doesn't come by birth. For example, in a doctor's house who is practicing from number of years, if a boy takes birth in that family, if a child is there, a doctor certificate is not given to him from childhood. He has to grow, he has to study, he has to get a degree of a doctor, and then the degree of doctor is given to him, and then he becomes qualified to do that. So similarly, if a Brahmana, in a house of a Brahmana, a son or a child is birthed from childhood, we don't call him a Brahmana, but by Bhagavad Gita, if he trains himself, makes him qualify, then he can qualify to become a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya or anything. So here the discrimination is done according to the quality, the guna which he takes. So why we are discussing this? We are discussing this because in the next verse, Krishna reveals in the verse number 46 that by worship of the Lord, who is the source of all beings and who is all pervading, man can in the performance of his own duty attain perfection. So the discussion was about to get perfection in life. Just by doing your duty according to your nature, you can attain perfection in your life. The chapter we started by doing our duty but not getting attached to the result. But here Krishna says that according to your nature, as a matter of duty, if you perform your duty, you come out of this attachment of getting into the results. You come out of the attachment of thinking that what will happen, how will I survive? But if you have your own qualities, your own guna, which you can perform very well, Krishna personally says that he will take care of all these activities. So this was about the Nishkam Karma. Do your duty as a matter of duty, keeping Krishna as your partner, and then Lord will personally take care of yourself. And let us move on to the fifth section of Bhagavad Gita, where from verse number 54 to verse number 73, Bhakti Yoga is explained. How Bhakti Yoga is highest above all, that is very nicely explained in this section of Bhagavad Gita. And I would recommend, please come on to verse number 54, where this Bhakti Yoga starts. We spoke about Karma Yoga, we spoke about Jnana Yoga, we spoke about Nishkam Karma Yoga, but Bhakti Yoga is above all these activities. So Bhakti Yoga is all inclusive. Bhakti Yoga includes Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga includes Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga includes Nishkam Karma Yoga, and everything. So Bhakti Yoga is all inclusive. That is very nicely explained in this section. So the first verse of this section, that is verse number 54, where Krishna speaks about a Brahma Bhuta. Brahma Bhuta means a soul who has attained perfection in his life and how he acts or what are his symptoms. So let us hear from Krishna himself. Krishna says that a person who is transcendentally situated, he never laments nor desires to have anything in his life. If a person is transcendentally situated in Bhakti Yoga, he doesn't lament, oh, what will happen? Oh, already something has happened and he's lamenting, oh, why did I do like this? Why my past was like that? He doesn't lament about his past and he doesn't desire also about something in his future. What will I do in my future? Who will take care about me in old age? What is my bank balance? Should I plan about my house, my car, my family? Nothing. A person transcendentally situated in Bhakti Yoga, he doesn't lament or he doesn't desire, and we surely can attain this stage just by practicing this Bhakti Yoga process. And in verse number 55, now Krishna explains that one can understand the Supreme Personality as he is only by devotional service. So here the confidential message that who can understand Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is very nicely explained here. The verse starts with Bhaktya Mam Abhijanati. Bhakta, a devotee of Krishna, can very easily understand Krishna. So if you are practicing bhakti yoga and the ultimate goal is Krishna, but if you don't know about Krishna properly, how you will understand him? So first and foremost, we need to become a devotee of Krishna. If you become a devotee of Krishna, then slowly Krishna guarantees that the knowledge about him will be revealed in your heart. And we have Bhagavad Gita with us where everything is revealed. Krishna is very systematically revealed about himself. So a devotee can understand through bhakti yoga Krishna. And in the verse number 56, Krishna very nicely explains that my devotee is under my protection. There's no loss if we become Krishna's devotee. Like there are many cases in the history. We have heard about Prahlad Maharaj. He was tried to kill many times. His own father tried to kill him. But Krishna in the form of Lord Narsimha protected him. And there are many devotees, Draupadi, Pandavas, Kunti Maharani. They were troubled so much. But Krishna here boldly declares that his devotees are under his protection. So we need not worry about, oh, I am practicing bhakti yoga, I am a Krishna's devotee, what will happen? Krishna will personally take care. That is Krishna's promise. And in the verse number 58, where Krishna says, Macchitta sarva durgani. If you are going through some problem, Krishna is boldly declaring, if you become conscious of me. This is a very nice verse. The verse number 58 where Krishna says, if you become conscious of me, think about me, remember me, you will pass all the obstacles of this conditioned life by my grace. Krishna is telling that by his grace, if we just be conscious about Krishna, the greatest of the greatest problem, the greatest of the greatest obstacles in life, that will be like very easily we can cross over. But Krishna also says that if you do not work in such consciousness, the smallest of the smallest obstacle, which we very easily can just cross over, but if we don't remember Krishna, that can become a very big obstacle in our life. So Krishna personally, please think about me, remember me, and by my grace, you will come out of this obstacle very easily. So, and in verse number 61, in this section of this Bhakti Yoga, Krishna says, Ishvara sarva bhutanam hriddeshe Arjuna tishtati. Now what Krishna is saying is that the Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing and wandering all the living entities. So Krishna is personally telling that where I am, Krishna is saying that I am in your heart. Krishna says that think about me, but sometimes we don't know that where is Lord personally residing. Krishna says I am there in your heart personally residing. Think about me. So whenever we are far away, not nearby temple, or Bhagavad Gita is not there with us, and we want to think about Krishna, Krishna is not very far from us. Right there in your heart, Krishna is there. So you can think about Krishna in your difficult times. But sometimes people say that yes, Krishna is there in our heart, so why we need to go to temple for that? So yes, Krishna in his expansion is there in your heart, seated there to guide you, but temples are a personal abode. Like a lawyer, he is very much available in his office for some time, but personally he resides in his house. So Krishna, even though he is there in your heart guiding you, but personally in temples he is there. So in the temple, we can worship Krishna and get knowledge about Bhagavad Gita, and in heart, he is personally guiding us. So both guidance we can take. And in this further conversation in this Bhakti Yoga section, in the verse number 62, Krishna very nicely explained, O Scion of Bharata, surrender unto him utterly. Now whom he is telling to surrender? Surrender unto that person in your heart, Krishna. Ishvara sarva bhutanam hriddeshe Arjuna tishtati. Surrender to Krishna. Tamev sharanam gaccha sarva bhavena bharata. But above all, in the Bhakti Yoga, the most important and the highest summarization and the conclusion of Bhakti Yoga and the conclusion of whole Bhagavad Gita is given in the verse number 65 and 66, where verse in 66 and 65, Lord personally speaks that Manmana bhavamad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru, where Krishna says in the verse 65 that always think of me, become my devotee, worship me and offer your homage unto me. So this is the most confidential knowledge. If you remember in the 9th chapter, in the last verse, the same things, the confidential knowledge was revealed by Krishna, Manmana Bhavamad Bhakto, and the same in the verse 65, Krishna again speaks, Manmana Bhavamad Bhakto. This is the confidential knowledge. Think about me, become my devotee, and Krishna will protect you. And in the verse number 66, Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja, Krishna boldly declares, give up all religion and surrender unto me. Do not worry, I will protect you. So this is the topmost pinnacle of Bhakti Yoga, where Krishna personally boldly declares, give up all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. Krishna says, Ma Sucha, do not fear, just surrender. And in the verse number 67, Krishna explains, this confidential knowledge may not be explained to those who are not austere, not devoted or engaged in devotional service. We take a lot of austerities to learn any subject matter, maybe it regarding with our own engineering field or doctor field, medical field, or any activity we do. We need to take some austerity in our life. Similarly, to understand Bhagavad Gita, we need to just take some austerity to understand from our mental level or intellectual level. But Krishna says those who are not austere, they doesn't want to understand this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, just don't tell to them, or this confidential knowledge will not be revealed to them. So we need to take little austerity, not to go to Himalayas and perform some austerities to understand, but to give some time to understand this Bhagavad Gita's knowledge. And in the highest thing which, after speaking about this Bhagavad Gita, giving this knowledge, now in the verse number 73, Krishna speaks that now this was in this verse, that was the time for Arjuna to speak, and Arjuna says that Nashta moha smitir labdha tvat prasadat maya chutaha. Here, after hearing about Bhakti Yoga and after hearing about this knowledge, the highest knowledge of Bhakti Yoga, now Arjuna says that my illusion is now gone. I have regained my memory by your mercy. I am now firm and free from doubt, and I am prepared to act according to your instructions. If you remember in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, verse number 30, Arjuna is telling that I am not able to stand here any longer. I am forgetting myself. My mind is reeling and I foresee only evil. That was the situation of Arjuna in the first chapter. But in this 18th chapter, verse number 73, Arjuna is very confident. He is ready to fight. He is telling that I am ready to act according to your instructions, oh Krishna. So this is very miraculous and mysterious, where after explaining the entire Bhagavad Gita, talking about the Bhakti Yoga, now the heart and mind of Arjuna has changed. Now he is ready to act according to instructions. The same feeling we can also go through when we imbibe the instructions of Bhagavad Gita in our life. Right now we are not so confident about our life, but when we take up to the instructions of Bhagavad Gita, we can also become like Arjuna, confident. We can also fight our problems as Arjuna fought valiantly and won the battle. So the last section of Bhagavad Gita, where conclusion is given by Sanjaya, as Sanjaya, by the Divya Drishti, blessings of his Guru Vyasadeva, was able to see the entire war field, and he was very fortunate to hear Bhagavad Gita, the conversation between Krishna and Arjuna. And the conclusion here given by Sanjaya is that Sanjaya said, thus, that is in the verse number 74, thus I have heard the conversation of two great souls, Krishna and Arjuna. Now Sanjaya is very happy. He is able to hear the conversation of Krishna and Arjuna, the great souls. So these are the symptoms of hearing Bhagavad Gita. Now what are the symptoms of hearing Bhagavad Gita? That in the verse number 75 and 76 is very nicely spoken by Sanjaya, where Sanjaya says, O king, I repeatedly recall this wonderful and holy dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna, and I take pleasure being thrilled at every moment. Just by recalling this dialogue again and again, Arjuna is thrilled. His hairs are standing on his end. It's like goosebumps are on. He's very much excited. He's very much enthusiastic. And when he recalls this conversation, he's very happy. So this is the result of hearing Bhagavad Gita. if you also recall this and systematically go through this Bhagavad Gita, you can also have this feeling of Sanjaya which he is going through. And the final last shloka of Bhagavad Gita, the verse number 78, where Sanjaya says, Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna Tatra Partha Dhanurdaraha. Wherever there is Krishna and master of all mystics, and wherever there is Arjuna, the supreme archer, there will also certainly be opulence, victory, extraordinary power, and morality. So, if you have this Bhagavad Gita at your home, it's like Krishna and Arjuna having at your place. And where there is Krishna and Arjuna, there is opulence, there is victory, there is morality. Some people say if you have Bhagavad Gita, you will have fights in your house, but that's not true, because Sanjaya himself, he says that where is Krishna and Arjuna, there is the entire world's opulence. So this was the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita summarized. Again, just a nutshell I would like to explain. The first section, Karma Yoga, second section, Jnana Yoga, third section, Nishkam Karma Yoga, then Bhakti Yoga very nicely explained, and the conclusion given here with Sanjaya. So please systematically go through this Bhagavad Gita step by step. Thank you very much for being such a nice audience. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to never miss any updates.